Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Central Valley Talk. My name is Ray Johns. I'm your host, and the name of my show is Voices Not Yet Heard. And like we say every week, we hope that perhaps your voice will get heard today. Now, we're going to talk about James Comey today, but we're going to talk about a couple other things first. On a personal note, I'd like to give a shout out again to GB3. What a great club. I said last week it's because of the people there, and I told you I'd keep you apprised. Well, I get up at 6:30, I go to the club, I'm taking a spin class, and it is incredible. The very first day that I did it, I think I stopped 2, 3, maybe 4 times. I couldn't get through it. And I want to announce that this complete week, I made it all the way through the class. Today, this morning, I'm so happy. I'm so proud of myself. I used all the gears. I went up as far as they tell you to go, and I lasted the whole class. My favorite part of it is when we do these 20 seconds bursts and we stop for 10 seconds and then another 20 seconds. And I tell you, it really, I don't know if it's the endorphins or what it is, but it makes you feel absolutely great. So if you get a chance and you want to join a great club, George Brown has a staff over there and they're what makes the club. It's just absolutely wonderful. So go. And I'm getting in shape, by the way. I started off, I weighed 197. I can't believe it. I stepped on the scales today. I weigh 186.2 pounds. I love it. Now, on a personal note, someone asked me about this shirt, and it says 2020, and that was Sandra's idea. And I get so many great compliments on it, and I want to say something personally, okay? And I don't know what it is about us males. I don't. I don't know if we've got something loose. There's a lineage problem. Who knows what it is? Maybe it goes back to the caveman. I'm not learned enough to talk about it, but in relationships, we tend to take things for granted when we have an outstanding person in our lives. And I think that needs to stop. I think we need to put our ego aside and take advantage of the fact that we have somebody that loves them. I was in a great relationship, and I took advantage of this wonderful person. I feel awful about it. I am hoping that if there's a possibility that we could sit down and talk and perhaps rekindle the greatest thing that ever happened to me in my lifetime. I love you, Sandra, and I truly miss you. I think that one of the things that we have to do as males is give up the right to be right, even when you're right. Give it up. It's not worth the relationship at all. Give up the right to be right and adopt the necessity to love, because it's all that matters. It really is. Anyway, we're gonna take, with that note, we're gonna take a little break, and we're gonna come back and we're gonna show a little clip of Comey opening, and we're gonna talk about James Comey, fiction or fiction, and we'll be back and say 2 and 2.
Were gone, I'd worked for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife.
Okay, I'm back. We're going to show a little clip, and I know most of you saw what yesterday. I think the whole world saw, but we're going to show the clip of Comey's opening statement, and then I'm going to come back and I'll make some comments and we'll talk. And I hope, by the way, if you're watching me right now, I'm live. Feel free to call in. This is a great subject. I think, and I'll explain why I say this, I think it's unnecessary that we're even talking about this, but I call it a great subject because it's so controversial and there's so many people that are talking about it. I do think, however, it's unnecessary, and I'll explain that in a bit. But we're going to go to a tape right now of his opening statement.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please be seated. Director Comey, you're now under oath. And I would just note to members, you will be recognized by seniority for a period up to 7 minutes. And again, it is the intent to move to a closed session no later than 1 p.m. With that, Director Comey, you are recognized. You have the floor for as long as you might need.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ranking Member Warner, members of the committee, thank you for inviting me here to testify today. I've submitted my statement for the record, and I'm not going to repeat it here this morning. I thought I would just offer some very brief introductory remarks, and then I would welcome your questions. When I was appointed FBI Director in 2013, I understood that I served at the pleasure of the President. Even though I was appointed to a 10-year term, which Congress created in order to underscore the importance of the FBI being outside of politics and independent, I understood that I could be fired by a president for any reason or for no reason at all. And on May the 9th, when I learned that I had been fired, for that reason, I immediately came home as a private citizen. But then the explanations, the shifting explanations, confused me and increasingly concerned me. They confused me because the President and I had had multiple conversations about my job, both before and after he took office. And he had repeatedly told me I was doing a great job and he hoped I would stay. And I had repeatedly assured him that I did intend to stay and serve out the remaining 6 years of my term. He told me repeatedly that he had talked to lots of people about me, including our current Attorney General, and had learned that I was doing a great job and that I was extremely well liked by the FBI workforce. So it confused me when I saw on television the President saying that he actually fired me because of the Russia investigation, and learned again from the media that he was telling privately other parties that my firing had relieved great pressure on the Russia investigation. I was also confused by the initial explanation that was offered publicly that I was fired because of the decisions I had made during the election year. That didn't make sense to me for a whole bunch of reasons, including the time and all the water that had gone under the bridge since those hard decisions that had to be made. That didn't make any sense to me. And although the law required no reason at all to fire an FBI director, the administration then chose to defame me, and more importantly, the FBI, by saying that the organization was in disarray, that it was poorly led, that the workforce had lost confidence in its leader. Those were lies, plain and simple. And I am so sorry that the FBI workforce had to hear them, and I'm so sorry that the American people were told them. I worked every day at the FBI to help make that great organization better. And I say help because I did nothing alone at the FBI. There are no indispensable people at the FBI. The organization's great strength is that its values and abilities run deep and wide. The FBI will be fine without me. The FBI's mission will be relentlessly pursued by its people, and that mission is to protect the American people and uphold the Constitution of the United States. I will deeply miss being part of that mission, but this organization and its mission will go on long beyond me and long beyond any particular administration. I have a message before I close for my former colleagues of the FBI, but at first I want the American people to know this truth. The FBI is honest, the FBI is strong, and the FBI is and always will be independent. And now to my former colleagues, if I may. I am so sorry that I didn't get the chance to say goodbye to you properly. It was the honor of my life to serve beside you, to be part of the FBI family, and I will miss it for the rest of my life. Thank you for standing watch. Thank you for doing so much good for this country. Do that good as long as ever you can. And Senators, I look forward to your questions.
Okay, I thought that was very important that you see that, and I know that most of you saw it yesterday. Comey should have been fired a long time ago. I mean, it should have happened months and months ago. This man lied about absolutely everything, continuously. He was back and forth, back and forth. He reminds me, and I direct this to most of the men. You remember when you were young and you met at a ballpark and you chose up sides and you played baseball, and usually some kid would show up and you played with old cruddy baseballs because you couldn't afford new baseballs, and some little rich kid would show up with a brand new baseball, and if he didn't get to play, he'd take his baseball, his gloves, and he'd go home. That's James Comey. That's how I look at him. Now, So many things have happened. I love what Rush Limbaugh said, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But I want to talk to you about something else that happened in Washington, D.C. that is very interesting to me, and it just blows my mind. I don't know if you know this, but yesterday, prior to the hearings, several very trendy, very popular bars opened early so that the millennials could go there and drink and have what they called watch parties to watch this. Now, these bars opened several hours before the convention, and I guess it was probably just an excuse for these people to go someplace and have a drink. I don't know. But here's what I found interesting. There were a couple of 3 or 4 entrepreneurs that got together and decided to sell T-shirts. And I must say that I applaud their creativity, because as I understand it, they sold something like 1,000 to 1,500 T-shirts at like $25 a piece. And I like I said, I applaud their creativity. And it was just amazing. The front of the T-shirt, and this is what cracked me up, the front of the T-shirt said, Comey's homies. So you had all these trendy people sitting in these really fancy bars in Washington, D.C. wearing shirts that said Comey's homies. I just love to say that. It just cracks me up. You look at the FBI director and you think of, he has a homie? I mean, that's just a little too far-fetched for me. Now, I must tell you that yesterday, at the same time that the hearings were going on, or probably just a little bit more, Hillary Clinton was addressing the commencement speaker for Medgar Evers College in Brooklyn. Now, for those of you who don't know, and I think most of you do, Medgar Evers was the civil rights leader who was slain in 1963 by a white supremacist named Byron D. LeBeckwith. LeBeckwith was subsequently acquitted twice, I think, of those murders by an all-white jury. And 25 years later, a very smart Southern lawyer brought the case back, and eventually LeBeckwith was sentenced to what I think was 25 years to life. And it became a movie called Ghost of Mississippi, starring Alec Baldwin, I think, as the young lawyer, and Whoopi Goldberg as Edgar's wife. Anyway, I've got to tell you that it blows me away. This whole thing, and what I said earlier, I truly meant, is that, this is also unnecessary. Shouldn't we be talking about health care? Shouldn't we be talking about the economy? These people need to get out of the way and let Donald Trump do what he's doing. Everything is going just fine despite all of these awful distractions, that's holding up the country. It's holding up the American people. We need to get on with our lives. Rush Limbaugh said Trump has been exonerated, but it won't change a thing. And it's true. They're just going to find another way through fake news to hammer away at Donald Trump. And it's not going to work. I mean, if you looked at the news, the liberals saw this as an opportunity. They looked forward to it. They were just hoping that there was going to be a smoking gun. There's no smoking gun. Donald Trump's not going to be impeached. He's been elected by the people. Hillary Clinton yesterday at the commencement exercise told the class that she said it's devastating losing an election. And she said, especially considering who I lost the election to. And Hillary, I must tell you, you didn't just lose the election to Donald Trump. You lost the election to the American people. The majority spoke. That's who you lost. And you lost to Kasich. You lost to Jeb Bush. You lost to Rubio. You lost to SpongeBob. As ridiculous as that sounds, that's how ridiculous these people are in the media. It's time to wake up, ladies and gentlemen. It really is. I don't know what to do about these people. They're a force that just seems to be here. And I think eventually, hopefully, some of them will wake up and realize what's going on in this country. We have an elected leader who has brought jobs back. He is working so very, very hard to make this country great again. And he will do that. There's no doubt in my mind that he will do this. He is on a mission. He plods along, kind of like an old plow horse, you know? He just keeps on going, despite all the distractions that he receives from everyone. You know, it's time that the people on the left, took a really good look at what they're doing. I know they're paid, a lot of them, you know, and I know that the media is owned, for the most part, by Soros and other people that they just can't stand. And you need to know the facts, okay? It's not just that they lost the election. It's that they lost a way of life, you know. There's not going to be any special interests, okay? They're not going to get big bucks like they've gotten from other administrations, both Democratic and Republican. It's not going to happen because Donald Trump can't be bought. And that is the problem. The problem is, bottom line, there's not going to be any money, okay, for all those people. And so they're going to bitch and moan about this forever because of it, you know? And it's time they woke up. It's time they took a look at this country. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world, you know, and we need to unite. I said on one of my former shows, how great would this country be? How perfect would it be if everyone got on the same train, you know? The train's headed one way, and that's upward, you know? And for all you people that keep protesting, keep trying to stop Donald Trump, talking about impeachment, which is not going to happen, you know, you need to join the winners, okay? Hillary Clinton lost the election. You know, the majority of the people have spoken. Let's get on the bandwagon. We're going to take another break. We're going to come back. There's a couple of clips I want to show you. And by the way, I want to apologize to the radio station for using a personal note, and I really do. I love this radio station. Mike Briggs is just a super human being. But if this old cowboy embarrassed himself today, I don't care. Because Sandra is more than worth it. I'll be back and say 2 and 2.
My lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt.
Okay, I'm back. You know, I was sitting here thinking, and last night I was thinking, and yesterday after I looked at, you know, the Comey, yeah, he's on my mind, the homie. Anyway, we looked at Comey. I can't help but laugh when I think of Comey's homies. I mean, it's just great. I wish I had one of those T-shirts. I wouldn't wear it, but I'd like to display it somewhere. Anyway, and yesterday, and I thought about all that's going on with this, and it reminded me, and I've used this before, it reminded me of a play that I was in college at Fresno State, and all of this, not just the Comey hearings, everything that's happening in this country in regards to the liberals and what they're doing and what they're trying to do reminds me of a title of a great Shakespeare play that I was in called Much Ado About Nothing, because that's what it is. And that's the way I look at it. We're going to show a couple more tapes now, and we'll come back and we'll talk about them.
Let me begin with one overarching question. Why do you believe you were fired?
I guess I don't know for sure. I believe I take the president at his word that I was fired because of the Russia investigation. Something about the way I was conducting it, the president felt created pressure on him that he wanted to relieve. Again, I didn't know that at the time, but I've watched his interview. I've read the press accounts of his conversations, so I take him at his word there. Now, look, I could be wrong. Maybe he's saying something that's not true, but I take him at his word, at least based on what I know now.
Now, here's the question. You're big, you're strong. I know the Oval Office, and I know what happens to people when they walk in. There is a certain amount of intimidation. But why didn't you stop and say, Mr. President, this is wrong. I cannot discuss this with you?
It's a great question. Maybe if I were stronger I would have. I was so stunned by the conversation that I just took it in. And the only thing I could think to say, because I was playing in my mind, because I was going to remember every word he said, I was playing in my mind, what should my response be? And that's why I very carefully chose the words. And look, I've seen the tweet about tapes. Lordy, I hope there are tapes. I remember saying, I agree he's a good guy, as a way of saying I'm not agreeing with what you just asked me to do. Again, maybe other people would be stronger in that circumstance, but that's how I conducted myself. I hope I'll never have another opportunity. Maybe if I did it again, I would do it better.
Do you sense that the president was trying to obstruct justice or just seek for a way for Mike Flynn to save face, given he had already been fired?
Well, General Flynn at that point in time was in legal jeopardy. There was an open FBI criminal investigation of his statements in connection with the Russian contacts and the contacts themselves. And so that was my assessment at the time. I don't think it's for me to say whether the conversation I had with the president was an effort to obstruct. I took it as a very disturbing thing, very concerning, but that's a conclusion I'm sure the special counsel will work towards to try and understand what the intention was there and whether that's an offense.
And finally, did you show copies of your memos to anyone outside of the Department of Justice?
Yes.
And to whom did you show copies?
I asked, President tweeted on Friday after I got fired that I better hope there's not tapes. I woke up in the middle of the night on Monday night, because it didn't dawn on me originally, that there might be corroboration for our conversation. There might be a tape. And my judgment was I needed to get that out into the public square. And so I asked a friend of mine to share the content of the memo with a reporter. Didn't do it myself for a variety of reasons, but I asked him to because I thought that might prompt the appointment of a special counsel. And so I asked a close friend of mine to do it.
And was that Mr. Wittes?
No, no.
Who was that?
A good friend of mine who's a professor at Columbia Law School.
Thank you.
Senator Heinrich.
Okay, let me tell you what the key that I saw there in that clip. He asked a friend to go, and basically what I found out is that he asked a friend to go to the New York Times because he was hoping that it would leak and start a special investigation. You know, I mean, for crying out loud, why didn't he do that with the DOJ? Why didn't he do that with Loretta Lynch? That's when he should have done it. You know, why didn't he do that? But he did it with Trump. Let me tell you something about Comey. He's a very slick person, okay? He knows how to get around. I mean, he was an FBI the head of the FBI, you know? I mean, the man knows how to manipulate and do that. Here's the problem. He has one major problem. Donald Trump, you know? He doesn't want to get down and dirty in the trenches with Donald Trump because I can guarantee you what will happen. He will lose, and he'll lose badly. And I think that if this continues, and there's another one, which I don't think it'll be, I think we will probably see that happen. I think there's a very good chance we'll see that happen. We're going to go to another clip here, and we'll come back and we'll talk about that. So,
President, do you have this in Romania too? I don't know.
Yeah, I got the microphone.
Oh, boy.
If you allow me,
If
Mr.
I could only sell that. If I could only sell it. Who would like to ask? Should I take one of the killer networks that treat me so badly as fake news? Should I do that? Huh?
Standing room, Mr. President.
Go ahead, John.
Thank you.
Be fair, John.
Oh, absolutely.
Remember how nice you used to be before I ran? Such a nice man.
Always fair. Mr. President, I want to get back to James Comey's testimony. You suggested he didn't tell the truth in everything he said. He did say under oath that you told him to let the Flynn, you said you hoped the Flynn investigation you could let.
I didn't say that.
So he lied about that.
Well, I didn't say that. I mean, I will tell you, I didn't say that.
And did he ask you to pledge his
And there'd be
loyalty?
nothing wrong if I did say it, according to everybody that I've read today, but I did not say that.
And did he ask for a pledge of loyalty from you? That's another thing he said.
No, he did not.
So he said those things under oath. Would you be willing to speak under oath to give your version of those events?
100%. I didn't say under oath. I hardly know the man. I'm not going to say, I want you to pledge allegiance. Who would do that? Who would ask a man to pledge allegiance under oath? I mean, think of it. I hardly know the man. It doesn't make sense. No, I didn't say that, and I didn't say the other.
So if Robert Mueller wanted to speak with you about that,
I would be glad to
talk
tell him exactly what I just told you, Joe.
And you seem to be hinting that there are recordings of those conversations.
I'm not hinting anything. I'll tell you about it over a very short period of time. Okay? Okay. Do you have a question here?
When will you tell us about the recordings?
Over a fairly short period of time.
Now? Are there tapes, sir?
Oh, you're going to be very disappointed when you hear the answer. Don't worry. John, do you have a question for the president?
Yes. Thank you. And President Yohannes, you are no stranger to Russian aggression. Vladimir Putin recently suggested that Romania could be in Russia's crosshairs. How concerned should the world be about Russian aggression in your region, and how concerned should we be here in the United States about what Russia tried to do in our election, sir?
Everybody's concerned, but you see, being concerned should lead you to being prepared. So in my opinion, we have to be very clear, very simple, and very straightforward if we talk about Russia and with Russia. In my opinion, we need dialogue. But on the other hand, we need what we all together decided in NATO, a strong deterrence. So this combination, strong deterrence and dialogue, should lead towards a solution which is feasible for every part. Domnul Pantazi.
Hello, Mr. President Trump. You mentioned earlier the anti-corruption fight in Romania. It is a matter of high importance in our country. But we see now that the anti-corruption fight and the efforts to consolidate the rule of law are sometimes undermined by some politicians, part of what we can call the Bucharest swamp. Is your administration going to support the anti-corruption fight in Romania, and how can you do it? Thank you.
Well, we support very strongly Romania, and therefore, obviously, we do support that fight on anti-corruption. We will always support that, and we support your president. We think he's done an outstanding job, very popular, very solid, working very hard. We know everything that's going on, and and he's going to win that fight. He's going to win that battle, but he has our support.
Thank you so much.
Do you see the corruption in Romania as a problem for the U.S.-Romania partnership and for the American investor as a threat, because we still have corruption in Romania despite this anti-corruption fight?
Well, you do, but I can tell you that there are many American investors right now going to Romania and investing. In fact, I was given a chart just before our meeting, and we have people going over to Romania and investing, and they weren't doing that a number of years ago. So that shows very, very big progress, and there really are a lot of congratulations in store. But a lot of people are investing from our country to yours, and people love from Romania the United States, and they come here a lot, and we're very proud of them. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
On the tape, sir. Can you just confirm their existence?
Mr. President, how can he be a liar and vindicate you?
Stay down. Stay down.
Down.
President Trump and the Romanian President Klaus Iohannis wrapping up their news conference in the Rose Garden. President Trump starting off with a statement talking about his Middle Eastern trip and the issue of the country of Qatar. Just a short while ago, ahead of that, the Secretary of State had delivered a statement at the State Department.
Okay, I'm back. The reason I wanted you to see that, and the reason I think that was so significant, is that I think that President Trump is doing something that no administration in the history of this country has done. Slowly but surely, he is uniting the Middle East. I mean, there's Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Israel. You know, for the first time, these people are our allies. They're investing with America. They're on our side, and of course that became a lot more apparent with the potential of what happened with that, I call him that little short fat black guy in the black coat with the bad haircut in North Korea. Anyway, things started happening then. You notice how that's been put on the back burner by the media? That's been put on the back burner. ISIS has been put on the back burner. It shows you the power of the media. You know, I talked to a young man at the club today. He and I were both in using the same weights. I went up and I said, "How many sets have you got left?" And he said, "Join me." And so we did. He'd do a set, I'd do a set, and we just started. He saw my T-shirt. I wear my T-shirt everywhere I go, and we started talking. And he was telling me that he was from Romania, and he was saying that the same thing the Indian young man said to me last week. People love America. They want to come here. Their country is limited to what they can do, you know. And Donald Trump is making that happen, you know, aside from all the other things but we don't know that. The people don't know that. I know that. The conservatives know that. But the great number of people don't know that because they watch the media and they believe what they see. They believe what they read. They believe what they hear. We're going to go to another clip, and we'll be back, and we'll talk about that one. Stand by.
This land, God bless the USA.
But I do say about Director Comey that he came through, I think, with great authenticity and sincerity. He is not a political person. I think that was quite evident, and that's a good thing for the director of the FBI. That the president would even ask him for his loyalty is something so far beyond the pale. He's not the president's appointee. So let's get back to what I said before. Charm, come to dinner, come to whatever that is, Trump Tower. Do you like your job? Can you be loyal to me? I hope you will do this. If you went to the White House and you were invited to the Oval Office with the President of the United States, the leader of the free world, and he told you what he hoped you would do, anyone who doesn't think that that is an abuse of power maybe has never been in the Oval with the President of the United States, especially one who has just cleared the room because he knew what he was doing was incriminating and he didn't want any witnesses. Yes,
Madam
sir.
Leader, to clarify that, do you think that he obstructed justice, that the President obstructed?
Well, I think he
Okay, I'm back. You know, when you look at that, what we just looked at in Pelosi, and, you know, you can't help but think that Comey calling the president a liar, I mean, you know, it's almost like he said. I don't believe a word that Comey says. I don't believe Nancy Pelosi. She's a part of the problem, as is Comey. You know, as is the useless idiots. They're all a part of the problem that's slowing the progress of this great nation. You know, I'm so proud of this country. I am. I'm so proud to be a part of it. I'm a true American. I'm a conservative. I'm a Republican. You don't get any better than that, you know. I play baseball, and I just had a piece of apple pie last night. You can't get any more American than I am, you know. We're going to go to a commercial, and we'll be back and say 2 and 2.
From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the Atlantic Sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA, where there's pride.
Boy, do I love that song. I mean, Lee Greenwood, isn't that just a great American song? I just love it. Every time it's still, I can hear it 1,000 times and I still get chills just listening to it because of this country. You know, we're all so very fortunate, and I keep saying it because I find it so difficult to believe that we have people in this country that are trying to tear this country apart, you know. And it all comes down to economics. I keep saying it. It's not just simply because they lost the election. You know, it's not, that's really minor. It's a matter of economics. The people that are backing this stuff aren't going to get paid, okay? They get paid millions and millions and millions of dollars. You think it's easy for them to just say, oh my goodness? No. You know, it's not. And that's what it's all about. The news that you watch, 80% of it is false, okay? The Washington Post, the New York Times, the Boston Globe. You know, do your due diligence. Remember we talked about that? Do your due diligence. If you have to read these papers, then go to the Dredge Report. You know, there are a lot of different reports that you can go to. Look at both sides and make your own decision, but for God's sakes, get up off the couch, quit allowing other people to make your decisions for you. Become a leader, okay? Because that's what we need in this country. We need more people off the couch. Because I'll tell you something right now. This country is going to move forward with or without you. The majority has spoken. Okay, we're going to go to yet another clip, okay? And we'll come back and we'll comment on that.
I have just a trip to Europe and the Middle East, where I work to strengthen our alliances, forge new friendships, and unite all civilized peoples in the fight against terrorism. No civilized nation can tolerate this violence or allow this wicked ideology to spread on its shores. I addressed a summit of more than 50 Arab and Muslim leaders, a unique meeting in the history of nations, where key players in the region agreed to stop supporting terrorism, whether it be financial, military, or even moral support. The nation of Qatar, unfortunately, has historically been a funder of terrorism at a very high level. And in the wake of that conference, nations came together and spoke to me about confronting Qatar over its behavior. So we had a decision to make. Do we take the easy road, or do we finally take a hard but necessary action? We have to stop the funding of terrorism. I decided, along with Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, our great generals and military people, the time had come to call on Qatar to end its funding. They have to end that funding and its extremist ideology in terms of funding. I want to call on all of the nations to stop immediately supporting terrorism. Stop teaching people to kill other people. Stop filling their minds with hate and intolerance. I won't name other countries, but we are not done solving the problem, but we will solve that problem. Have no choice. This is my great priority because it is my first duty as president to keep our people safe. Defeating ISIS and other terror organizations is something I have emphasized all during my campaign and right up until the present. To do that, stop funding, stop teaching hate, and stop the killing. For Qatar, we want you back among the unity of respect. Ask Qatar and other nations in the region to do more and do it faster. I want to thank Saudi Arabia and my friend King Salman and all of the countries who participated in that very historic summit. It was truly historic. There has never been anything like it before, and perhaps there never will be again. Hopefully, it will be the beginning of the end of funding terrorism. It will therefore be the beginning of the end to terrorism. No more funding. I also want to thank the Romanian people for everything they contribute to our common defense and to the fight against the evil menace of terrorism. They have their own difficulties with it, and they've come a long way, and they're doing a lot. Romania has been a valuable member of the coalition to defeat ISIS, and it's the fourth largest contributor of troops in Afghanistan. There, 23 of your citizens have paid the ultimate price, and America honors their sacrifice. I want to recognize President Iohannis for his leadership in committing Romania this year to increase its defense spending from 1.4% of GDP to over 2%. We hope our other NATO allies will follow Romania's lead on meeting their financial obligations and paying their fair share for the cost of defense. But I will say this, that because of our actions, money is starting to pour in to NATO. The money is starting to pour in. Other countries are starting to realize that it's time to pay up, and they're doing that. Very proud of that fact. As you know, I have been an advocate for strengthening our NATO alliance through greater responsibility and burden sharing among member nations. And that is what is happening. Because together we can confront the common security challenges facing the world. Mr. President, I want to applaud your courage and your courageous efforts in Romania to fight corruption and defend the rule of law. This work is necessary to create an environment where trade and commerce can flourish.
Okay, I'm back. I wanted you to see that because it kind of, well, what it did to me was kind of reemphasize what I said earlier about him uniting these countries, and, there hasn't been an administration in the history of this country that's doing it the way he's doing it. He's been 200 days, and he's doing phenomenal things. If people would just recognize that, if they would quit fighting long enough and take a look at what's going on, and like I said, do your own due diligence, take a really good look at more than one side, okay? And you might just realize that what you've been seeing on the news, what you've been hearing on the radio, what you've been reading in these very liberal-owned newspapers by these people who are special interests is false, okay? We're going to go to one more tape before we close today. So we're going to do that right now.
My fellow Americans, we are the nation that built the Golden Gate Bridge in 4 years and the Hoover Dam in 5. Now it takes as much as a decade just to plan a major permit or a major infrastructure or anything even remotely major in our country. And that's ridiculous. And it's going to change. This week, I laid out a bold and exciting new vision for the infrastructure in America that will make our country faster, safer, and wealthier. Frankly, it will make our country greater. For too long, America has spent trillions and trillions of dollars building up other countries while our own country decayed and our own people suffered. Our highways and railways and airports and seaports have all been neglected, and it's holding our economy back. But now our economy is starting to roar, to rebuild our great nation and think big again. My new vision for American infrastructure will generate $1 trillion in infrastructure investment. We're going to give states and localities more power to decide what projects get built and how they're funded. And we're going to get government out of the way by massively cutting the federal approval time for infrastructure projects of a major nature so that America can build again. We will also revolutionize air travel in America. At a time when every passenger has GPS technology in their pockets, our air traffic controllers rely on technology so outdated, it's no longer manufactured. Our controllers do a great job with the technology they have, but all the flight delays and inefficiencies still cost our economy $25 billion every single year. We're proposing to move our air traffic control system to a new self-financing, nonprofit organization. It won't need any taxpayer money, and the FAA will still be in charge of safety. Many other countries have done this, and the results have been absolutely incredible. Next, we're going to revitalize the 12,000 miles of inland waterways, the lifeblood of the American heartland. Our agriculture, steel, and energy producers all depend on these critical corridors, and a single towboat can haul the same load as 1,000 18-wheelers. We're going to fix our 50-year-old system of locks and dams so American producers can get their products to market quickly, reliably, and efficiently. In the coming weeks and months, I will outline additional projects to rebuild American infrastructure, all of which can be achieved through my vision for a new partnership between Washington, states, and the private sector. With the talent, skill, and drive of the American people, there is no doubt to the beautiful future we can create together. All it takes is a bold and daring vision and the will to make it real. America is going to build again, under budget and ahead of schedule. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
I just want to say, please, those of you who, like I said, don't realize what's going on and you take all your information comes from the media, please, like I say every week, do your own due diligence, okay? Thank you so much for being with me today. I've enjoyed being here with you, and once again, I apologize for my personal note, but it was something that had to be said, okay? Because there's nothing more important to me in my life than Sandra, and I felt like she should know that. Anyway, as I say every week, when you get a chance, go up and talk to a policeman, a law enforcement officer, and please tell them how much we appreciate them. You know, I made a goal the other day to go up and to find 5 police officers separately and tell them that, and I ended up doing 7. And it, like Gary Miguel said when he was here, it makes you feel so good, and it helps them so much, you know. They're on the negative end of so much rhetoric, you know. Let's give them something positive to believe in. Let's give them something good to think about when they go home at night. Well, you know what? This lady came up to me and said wonderful things to me. You know, let them go home in that frame of mind, as opposed to somebody that yells and curses at them and screams at them for doing their great job. So let me say, until we meet joyously again next Friday at 3 o'clock, heaven's blessings.
In every American heart, and it's time we stand and say that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this